Hey everybody, Medium Eye here, and today we're going to be talking about the women's rights movement and the temperance movement. The women's right movement lasted from 1814 all the way to 1920, and still to this day, to this present day. The women's right movement began in 1848 when the first Women's Right Convention took place in Seneca Falls, New York. It was here where the Declaration of Sentiments was created for equal treatment of women and men under the law and voting rights for women. In 1850, there was the first National Women's Rights Convention in which both women and men took place. They conversed about equal wages and education and career opportunities, property rights, marriage reform, and a bit about the temperance movement. For example, in the first document, Lucy Stone and Henry Blackwell signed a document that protested against laws which women lost their legal existence upon marriage. In 1869, Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton create the National Women's Suffrage Association, whose goal was to achieve women's rights by means of congressional amendment to the Constitution. By 1890, the National Women's Suffrage Association and the American Women's Suffrage Association combined to create the National American Women's Suffrage Association. The NAWSA worked on getting each state to individually allow women's rights. In 1893, Colorado is the first state to introduce an amendment that allows women the right to vote. In Document 2, Senator Robert L. Owen says that women were given equal pay. This was then followed by Utah and Idaho in 1896, Washington in 1910, California in 1911, Oregon, Kansas, and Arizona in 1912, Alaska and Illinois in 1913, Montana and Nevada in 1914, New York in 1917, Michigan, South Dakota, and Oklahoma in 1918. And on August 26, 1920, the 19th Amendment was added to the Constitution, granting the right to women to vote. The temperance movement. The temperance movement began around 1820, but before this, there have been documents against drunkenness. To a lot of people, alcohol brought bad morale. In 1826, the American Temperance Society was made. During the Victorian period, the temperance movement saw a large introduction with legal enforcement. In 1851, the Maine Law passed. The law restricted the sale of alcohol in many parts of the United States. However, in the United States, there was a setback. During the Civil War, both the North and the South relied on alcohol duty to finance the war, and the law was removed in several states. In Document 4A and 4B, alcohol is expressed as a drug or demon that destroys communities in a whole by explaining what it does, such as creating 3/4 of extreme poverty and crime. It also dishonors names and ruins fortunes. During the post-war movement, this removal of the Maine Law was reversed and put back into play. It led to the Anti-Slogan League, who focused on creating dry states and dry counties. By 1930, the temperance movement had begun to dwindle. Prohibition was being criticized as unhealthy drinking habits, encouraging criminals, and discouraging economic activity. On December 5th, 1933, the prohibition was removed. Thanks guys for watching. That's it for today.